It's Podular. We are back, everybody, for episode 15. It is Thursday, February 6th, 2025, and we've got an awesome episode here lined up for you. This is the third installment of our artist spotlight. We have a very special guest that Scotty's going to introduce for us in a sec. Just a couple announcements, reminders. We are into show month officially in 2025. We got two shows coming up here, or a series of shows on the boat, actually. So next weekend already, we got Jam Cruise coming up. Safe travels to everybody getting down to Florida, get on the boat and see STS9 for the first time in a very long time on Jam Cruise. Going to be super exciting. And then they are headed back to the Heartland, baby. They are going to Sweetwater Festival the following weekend in Atlanta, Georgia. Our man Scotty will be in attendance, boots on the
Oh,
ground.
mm,
And Scotty, we got new music getting released
mm,
tomorrow. My God,
tomorrow.
it is a good time to be a Sector 9 fan. So, after talking about all that, Scotty, get ready to introduce our guest. We're going to do a
Yes.
great interview with him, listen to some music. We got some fun segments planned at the end of it. But without further
All
ado, man,
right,
take it
guys.
away.
Yes. Guys, we have an extremely special guest tonight. This man is a visual artist. He has worked with everyone from Pretty Lights to Papadocio to the Disco Biscuits to My Morning Jacket. And of course, the reason that he is here today, he has worked with our favorite band, STS9. In addition to have created some of the best merch of the last year. He also holds a unique distinction of being my baby son's favorite artist. His art was the first art that my son really recognized and gravitated towards, and that makes him one of my favorite artists and one of my favorite people. Guys, we got Taylor Houston Morgan with us today. Welcome, Taylor.
What up?
Hello, sir. Thank you for
Good to
joining
have
us
you,
today.
man. Super
I don't
exciting. How you doing?
LJ boy, I said what up?
You just missed him. I actually can hear him screaming upstairs right now as he's fighting bedtime.
Beautiful.
All right, man. Well, today, we've thank you again for joining us. Just kind of want to jump right into it, man. A lot of people know you as the kind of the creative lead for most of the merch that's come out in the last year. I don't know how many people know about you as a person though. So, who is Taylor Houston Morgan? Where are you from? Where'd you grow up? All that good stuff.
Who is Taylor Houston Morgan? Just a chill guy, you know. I think honestly, I'm just kind of like an introvert and kind of I don't know. I live in the shadows a little bit. So I'm like I don't know. All my good friends kind of I come out of my shell in the right places and the right, whatever. But yeah, I don't know. You don't always just see me around, but uh, I would say just I'm more comfortable like in my own space, just like working, like like just vibing and like doing stuff. So I'm like, I don't know. I kind of hang out here a lot and major homebody.
Where is here?
Arkansas, Fayetteville, Arkansas. I've lived here for over a decade now. I got here from Oxford, Mississippi.
Where we met and went to school together.
Spent a bit of my time there. Did not come away from that beautiful town with a degree, but
Many don't, sir. Many don't.
it's one of the many casualties. Yeah, no, I mean it was weird. I guess it was like this thing of like I started as one thing. My degree at Ole Miss was like a game of telephone. By the fifth year I was working on it, I was like, what am I doing? I changed majors like three times, and I was like, I just didn't think like a art degree from Ole Miss was gonna like launch me into some, I don't know, great job or something. So
So going into that, I mean, how early in life did you start feeling that pull towards art as kind of the only thing you wanted to do? I mean, did you
I
go into Ole
mean,
Miss with anything
it
else in
is
mind?
interesting. It's like definitely when I was old enough to hold a pen, you know what I'm saying? Like I I was always drawing. I had like my mom and my grandmother were like really just big advocates for being creative. And I mean, I would go stay at my lake house with my grandmother, and my favorite place was like her office in our lake house because it had all the printer paper and all the pencils and all the stuff. I don't know. She was always painting and doing stuff. So it had all the supplies, and I would just go hang out and draw, just like stacks of fucking drawings all the time. And
Yeah.
yeah, and it was definitely like grandmother and mom, like, who were always buying me art supplies and kind of like pushing me that way, just because I think they noticed like early on that's what I was, I was like, I was just, it was calling me more than our other siblings and stuff. So yeah, they really like cultivated that. And I would say, going back to what you said, like, where am I from? I was born in East Texas. I grew up in Fort Worth. My parents split when I was like 3, and my mom remarried, and we moved to Fort Worth from Van Zant County, like right by Tyler, Texas. But we moved to Fort Worth, and yeah, just I kind of cut my teeth there, grew up, did kind of like went from being like pretty rural out in East Texas to like suburb city kid.
Yeah, I was in Tyler
And
last week.
yeah, and so it was like, I was too young probably to really notice that big of a difference, but it is funny. I do have like vague memories living out in East Texas. Like my sister and I would just like roam around the town. Like we would like, there's this story my mom loves to tell where she took a nap and she woke up and I was gone. I was like a toddler and I was like barely able to walk and ride my little tricycle, and I was gone. She was like, I was gone from the house, and she was like, "Where is this kid?" And so she started driving all over the town, like all over town, and she was pulling by the like one grocery store and in town, and she saw my tricycle like in a parking spot, and so she like went in, she went in and she found me with just like a shirt and my diaper on in the toy aisle, just like looking, just like perusing the like toy guns. And she was like, she bought me one of the guns and was like obviously mad, but like happy she found me. But yeah, it's just funny. That's how it was. It was like we would just roam, dude. I have these like memories of like weird neighbor kids who, like, there was this one kid, it's like a fever dream, but who would like walk on a, like, roll a barrel down our street and like walk on it, and like just, I don't, it's like this is just not like how it is these days. But yeah, then growing up in Fort Worth, it was just like, I don't know, high school, being a little shithead, getting in trouble. I was a bad kid, honestly. um
I was too.
I got in more trouble in high school than I did in like college. Um, I
I'm
was
with you
like,
there. Yeah.
I don't know. I grew up in a super conservative family, for what it's worth. Like my family is like super, I don't know, just like very religious and conservative, right wing. I don't know. I'm the black sheep of my family, and I definitely like, I don't know, found that like rebel side of myself in high school and just kind of like, I don't know, went crazy.
Well,
So,
you,
so
you
you go ahead.
yeah,
Go ahead.
you talked about your family being the first people to kind of put artistic materials in your hand, right?
Mhm, mhm.
Outside of your family, that's obviously a big artistic influence of who gets you started with that. But outside of your family, what do you kind of cite as some of your early artistic influences?
Man, I saw that question. I'm like, it's kind of hard to say. Like, really, I would say I wrote some stuff down. I think what I put was like this is kind of a weird answer, but like my dad used to take me hunting a lot, and he was real big into like wildlife paintings and like photography and stuff. And I think that might have been some of the first, like,
Great answer.
he had this painting done that was from a photo. My stepdad was like the head of the Fort Worth chapter of Ducks Unlimited. So he's like this huge duck hunter, and he would take me duck hunting all the time. And I just remember like I would just like draw on the boat and in the blind, and it was like weirdly like magical to just like sit there and draw like
Sounds
out
amazing.
in in nature, like with the sunrise and and then boom,
Yeah.
but it was like cool. I mean, it's funny because I grew up, I did a lot of hunting and stuff, and this doesn't really answer your art question, but I will say it was like, I think that that was like an early influence on me of like realizing how much I loved just like being in nature. Because it's like with deer hunting, it's like 90% sitting there and watching a sunrise, you know?
Sure.
And then like missing a deer and going back in. Like um, and so we're just like, I don't know. I think like that, like kind of, there was my dad had this guy commissioned that did this painting based on a photograph of them hunting, and I always thought that was like so cool. Like
Yeah.
I remember vaguely I used to draw our like I would draw when we were hunting and I would like draw them hunting. And I just remember thinking like, you know, my like when I think about the different piles of old drawings, my mom, she would keep like everything. And she and my grandmother both have like over the years like gone through this process of like re-gifting all that stuff back to me. So I have a lot of it.
Yeah.
And it is really interesting now that I'm like so consumed by like creative work and art and everything to go back and look at what I was doing when I was just like a kid, just kind of like choosing what to do and what to draw and everything. A lot of it was like drawing my family, drawing things around me, like kind of just drawing from real life. And so yeah, it is interesting. I drew a lot of, this is a weird one, the Titanic. I was like weirdly obsessed with the Titanic.
It's a big movie. It
I
was a big
used to
movie when
draw
we
the
were kids. That
Titanic
makes
sinking
perfect
all the
sense.
time. Like I think it was a I think it was the thing of like it was just like Titanic mania
Yeah.
when I was like a kid, you know, when that
Of
movie came out.
course. Hmm.
And yeah, I that movie like got me, I guess, and like it did everyone else. And I was like weirdly obsessed with that like iconic image of it like shoved down
Sure.
into the water, sticking out. I would draw that like 100 times. Hillary is always making fun of me and laughing about it. It's like in Super Bad, like the kid that draws the dicks. It's like I had this weird thing I used to draw. She was like, they're oddly like specific. Like there's like guys falling off and like hitting the propellers and stuff. Like
Got a
I
big
mean that.
veiny triumphant bone.
yeah,
It's kind of
yeah.
phallic too, honestly. It's
I
like
mean, you know, there's a lot of very specific different positions, okay? There's like when it first started going, then it snapped, and then it went straight up. So, I mean, there was all these different, I was very into it.
Oh,
Yeah.
Katie Titanic.
So yeah, I don't know, man. It's just funny. It's like it cracks me up like what I would draw as a kid. It's funny. I drew a lot of like Dallas Cowboys stuff. I think I literally just drew like what was like in front of me, you know?
Sure.
So,
I think that was a great answer. Honestly, that I mean, if you grew up in the South, I think you probably saw a good amount of that kind of art specifically, and
totally.
never even occurred to me. But that was all over my aunt and uncle's house when
Yeah,
I was
dude.
in there, and I go back there and I get so much comfort from that kind of art.
Mhm.
Not consciously though, until you just
Yeah.
said that, and now I kind of think about the things that I enjoy most about them, and it is a lot of that kind of theme.
Hmm. For sure.
So fast forwarding a little bit, I guess jumping back to your college years, your let's talk about your first STS9 show. Are you and I the same
This
year?
is weird. This is kind of a weird conversation. I'm just gonna like stop you there because
Sure.
first show is like, I mean, it's marked in the stats, 2011 lyric.
Hmm.
It's like I remember it's strange to me because it's like I think I saw STS9 probably like six-ish times or five, maybe like four or five times before it like clicked.
Okay.
Mhm.
So it's interesting. I would say that was my first show and I was there, but I was kind of just being like a frat boy dickhead. Like I
Sure.
wasn't like interested. I wasn't as interested as I was once it clicked.
Okay.
And I saw a couple shows at the Lyric. I'm trying to remember where all those were, but basically it was always like a Halloween show, or it was always like some big show where everyone was there just partying. And it's like I feel like I barely even looked at the stage during those first few times I saw him because I was just partying, you know? And I'm so
Mhm.
happy that like things led me to this place where I eventually like what's interesting is I will say I put it in our like notes or whatever, but my first show that like mattered to me was
Yep.
Alana's second show at Wakarusa. Um,
Right.
the show there was just a lot of weird build up to it. It's like, you know, before before the transition of like Murph and everything, I wasn't even that big of a fan. Like, I mean, it's just like SEC culture to like go see STS9. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Sure.
I like there were other bands I thought were way cooler back then. Like, I remember in college, I was a huge String Cheese fan, and
Mhm.
I couldn't get over them. I mean, they my first that was probably my that was my first big like jam band show was seeing them at Red Rocks in like 2012. And it just blew my fucking mind, dude. Like, I mean, they were so good. Like, I was just like, oh my God. So it's just interesting because I think I was really into the whole like jam band thing, and I think I just viewed STS9 as something different and didn't. It's like I wouldn't put them in that box. I even remember being kind of rude about them or something, like back then a little bit, like kind of just being like, yeah, they're not really my thing. Like I'll go if they're in town or whatever, but I wouldn't.
Mhm.
I specifically can see myself like telling someone that I would never tr really travel to see them. And it's just funny in retrospect that I
Yeah.
like had that kind of like condescending comment, and it's like it sticks in my head that I'm like, here we are, like I'm almost to 100 shows and how many times I've traveled to see them. But
I love that. You're the first artist. Actually, the our previous two artists, both their first shows ever, period, were STS9. It was Brandon and Rohan, you know them
oh
both.
wow,
And both of their first musical experiences were STS9,
dang.
which is hard to wrap
Yeah,
my mind
what?
around,
Like
right? That's what
how?
I thought. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Like
But
they
e-
didn't go to
e-
something at like Six Flags or something?
no, dude, I said the same thing. I especially with Brandon, dude, I could not get
That's
over it for like
weird.
5 minutes. I know.
I
Um,
saw, I think I saw like George Strait and my dad. I went and saw POD at Six Flags with my dad when I was
Oh,
young.
hell
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I remember
It
seeing
was
Taproot at
it
like a Six
fucking
Flags
rocked
type
out,
thing.
dude. It was
Yeah.
so good. I remember my dad going during POD. He was like, they're a little bit harder than you too. I was like, yeah, man.
A little more Christian too, to be honest.
Yeah.
Technically a Christian rock band, but
Hey, man.
um,
Table on
but
that.
where within the timeline of you starting to get it? Obviously, the jam band community is an extremely artistic community, right? There's art everywhere you look, art everywhere you listen.
Mhm.
Um, in your timeline, where do you start thinking you kind of want to start making your own shit and bringing it into that community
Yeah.
amongst where you started seeing those
Um,
shows?
it's interesting. I would say like definitely college is when that switch flipped for me. You know, I would say an interesting like kind of keystone thing that happened for me was that in my fraternity, Kappa Sig, AEK
Yep.
Delta B brothers, um, we I got made into our t-shirt chair. And because of that, my parents had been pushing me to get a job while I was there because they wanted me to stop asking for money all the time. So because of that, I got roped into this job at the t-shirt place. They were like, "Hey, you're a t-shirt chair. You could just work here and do all this stuff for your fraternity and then do some other jobs for us too."
At
So
Rebel Rags? Is that where this was?
do what?
Rebel Rags?
This is funny because you'll know all these. This
Yeah,
was a
yeah,
couple
that's
different places, but the first one was JC Graphics,
okay, okay.
which was just it's so dumb. But
Yeah.
and then the next one, gosh, oh, it was Oxford T-shirt Company.
Okay, great.
I
Cool.
worked
Yeah.
for them for a minute. I hated it. It was terrible. I mean, whatever. They're fine shirts or whatever. Good for them. But it was the worst job. Like I remember I look back now and it's so funny to me. They had me in the back room designing shirts and they had a phone that they made me answer. that so anyone that called the t-shirt shop, I had to answer, and like I'm like designing, like answering the phone
Yeah.
and stuff. It's just so funny to me. I would never do that now. But yeah, and then when they were like late on or when they had people call in sick and stuff, they would put me down in production, like pulling shirts out of the dryer and stuff, like the heat dryer, drying the ink.
Yeah.
And it was this shack back there that was like, dude, during the summer, it was like there's a heater in there that's like 230 degrees, like
Yeah.
drying ink. So you're standing in there, it's like 110 in this shack in the back of that place. And I just was like, it was the most miserable job I've ever had. And I hated it. But I will say, doing that, like, that's where I learned, just doing those shirts for my fraternity and stuff is where I learned like graphic design programs like Adobe Illustrator. And that's the first times I used that. And it's weird because I actually figured it out pretty well before I ever took a class or anything. At that point, I was a criminal justice major at Ole Miss.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, I started as a
Wow.
criminal justice and then moved
Beat
to
around that
marketing.
answer for a long time. You're studying to be a cop.
My stepdad is a cop. So,
SDS 9 saved your life.
so this is the thing. It's like
String cheese did.
I started as a criminal justice major. I ended up about, I think like sophomore year switching that to marketing. And that was like the first move away from like
Mhm.
what I thought would make my parents happy or whatever to like, I was like, I'm creative. I can do kind of some artistic things. So like marketing seems like a good application there.
Mhm.
And then I realized I hated that and I just fully, like when I was a junior, like fully switched to an art degree, BFA graphic design with a minor in printmaking. And that was like when I realized I was like really into the process of printmaking and really into it at this time, like I'm seeing these bands and I'm thinking of like how cool like Chuck Sperry is and stuff. And I think that's when
Okay.
it really started like to pop into my head, like I can figure this out and do this. Like, so yeah, I think it's like during those years, I remember using Oxford T-shirt Company's T-shirt press to print a paper poster back in the day, just when after
Wow.
hours, because they had all the screen printing supplies and stuff, and they're not meant to print on paper. It's the wrong ink, it's the wrong thing. They use spray adhesive to keep the shirts in place, so it like ruined the paper. It got all sticky and stuff. But like I printed a poster at Oxford T-shirt Company that was just like a design I made and printed on paper. And I was like, I remember holding that in my hand and it sucked. It was so bad, but I was like, this is pretty cool. Like,
Yeah.
um, but and then yeah, I just had a teacher that was like a printmaking teacher after I switched fully to art degree who like she really got to me. I loved her and she was crazy. She would always talk about how her husband like would just shoot his gun in her house and he had all these bullet holes in his ceiling and she had this like really long rat tail. She was crazy. And I loved her class. I was like her favorite student. I ended up taking her courses like three years in a or 2 years in a row, like back to back semesters. She got to a point where she would like take off a day and let me just like run the class and stuff. It was cool. Um, but yeah, so I feel like it's just interesting. I learned Adobe Illustrator through making frat tees. Um, Whenever I dipped away from school and came up here to Arkansas, I got a job here at a place just like those, place here called Houndstooth Press. That was like a print shop. And yeah, then from there worked for another print shop called Be Unlimited. From there, got hired away from there to work for a company called Fayette Chill and be their like creative director. And yeah, since then it's just kind of been like, I don't know, it's interesting. One of the things you had put in the doc was like, when did I have the thought to go like full-time art or whatever? and I don't think I ever got to make that choice. Like I always had to work a job, like, and so
Hmm.
it was always trying to figure out like what kind of job kept me still kind of being creative.
Sure.
And that just filtered down to like what was available in Fayetteville,
Right.
Arkansas. And that was print shops pretty much.
Hmm.
So I've bounced around. I know all the print shops here. They know me. I'm like, um, yeah, I ultimately, after Fayetteville, took about a year off of there, or left Fayetteville after about 3 years there, and just did freelance design work for a year. Just finally, that was probably the time when I jumped off the ledge the most and was like, I'm just going to work from home and try and get freelance jobs. And that was just a grind. I wasn't established enough to do that yet. Like I did it a little too early, and about a year into that, someone hooked me up with the owners of Onyx and were like, "Y'all need to meet this kid, Onyx Coffee Lab."
Coffee.
And they were hiring for a new designer, graphic artist, or whatever. I sat down with them and it was funny. It was the first job interview I've ever gone into where like I didn't care if I got it or not. I basically like played it so freaking cool. Like I was just like, yeah, I've never drank coffee before, man. I don't even like coffee. Like I was just like the worst interviewee and they hired me on the spot. I was like wow, that's how you get the job. Like I've
I mean,
never but
Yeah.
yeah,
Sound
hired
like
me
you
on the
don't like
spot
it.
and I ended up like Onyx was really pivotal like in my career. They introduced me to a lot of different like package like designing packaging. I really cut my teeth on branding and merchandising there. I must have made about 10,000 t-shirts while I was there and hats and custom merch and all that stuff. So it's like between that and Fayetteville, I would say it's like my skill set has become pretty specific to like merchandising and like sourcing and all that kind of stuff. And I don't like love that because it's not what I like set out to be or anything, but it's just kind of the jobs I found and expertise I gained. And
sure.
here we are. We basically, uh, through leaving Onyx eventually there was a conversation that was between me and the band that was like they needed help in this realm and it was like all right, let's do this. So
So I want to I want to pause there because I do just want to dive back into that kind of aha moment. We touched on it
yeah.
briefly with Wakarusa.
Uh-huh.
You said you had seen him 5 or 6 times. That is true. Especially in a time where we were in college, you just kind of went to STS 9 shows. I
Yeah.
developed a pretty unhealthy obsession pretty early, but everyone I knew was casually going to those shows. So what was
Mhm.
different about Waka that kind of
Well,
flip that switch.
it's funny because I had all these people in my life who were like really good friends of mine who loved STS 9.
Hmm.
And so I think that had this kind of like seed planting effect on me where it was like I knew that there was this kind of like culty interest in it.
Hmm.
And even though I was still like, it's not quite for me, I had this kind of like, it's like in the back of my mind, I was like, I knew they were cool, like, or something. Like, I still had their soundboards on my computer. I would listen to them every now and then. It just wasn't like my main thing. But yeah, so I say these people in my life, it was like Brad Younghouse,
Oh
and
yeah.
Yeah.
there was a friend here in Fayetteville named Chase Swaffer who, when I first moved here, he became like one of my best friends here, like right out of the gate. He's a friend of mine and John Morgan's, and that was kind of my connection with John. And literally, like, this is like just kind of a crazy conversation, but Chase passed away unexpectedly, really tragic situation about a year into us being friends. And he had been this just like obsessive STS 9 fan that was like my buddy who, when I came here, I didn't know anyone else. And he was the first person that we really clicked. And we had this like relationship where it was like, I could just walk up in his house, you know what I'm saying? Like it
Right.
was like, unannounced. I could just show up and hang out, like whatever. And we had just got really close, and it was like I was telling him about string cheese and nerding, like forcing him to listen to all these awesome sets I wanted him to hear and all this. And he was like doing the same with STS9 and me. Like he was kind of like instilling this stuff in me during that time before he passed away. And man, it all happened in this way where like Murph left the band. They announced Alana joining. And at that time, he and his roommate were like, they were such big fans that there was a stream, albeit it was like someone's shitty phone stream of McDowell Mountain Music
Yeah.
Festival.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
remember being at
Amy Bott did it. Shout out
I
Amy.
remember
She handled
being
that.
at their house and them watching it, and we were all listening to it and vibing or whatever. And I just remember thinking like it sounded like different, sounded really good. And cut to basically between then and Wakarusa, Chase passed away, and I think like
Wow.
it was this really crazy thing like he was going to be there at Waco with us and all this stuff, and so it was this weird like super heavy like I knew that that weekend that show was like I had to be there and I had to see it and I had to like appreciate it, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it felt like serious and heavy. And I just remember I, it's like as the show approached, I was like anxious about it because I knew it was so fresh and it was really emotional. And they opened with Baraka, and I
Yeah.
was just like, I mean, I was just like crying, man. I mean, it's like that's what everyone says, right?
Sure.
Like
No,
so
but I
that
mean that's
STS9 is just this emotional experience. And that was the first time that it just hit like that for me. And it just didn't stop after that. Like it hit in a certain way where something changed, and then like after that it was like each show after that I was like that seed was growing, and I was like getting more and deeper, and before I knew it, like a couple years after that I was doing like 15, 16 shows a year, and like yeah, just
Yeah.
um
all
so
right.
Well, let's get into that. I mean, they shortly after Wakarusa, a few months later, right? They come to George's Majestic,
mhm.
on Alana's first big fall tour. And I wanted to play a clip from that show because that was kind of your first proper Alana show as well. A little bit to that sound
Mhm. Totally.
here.
George is
Surreality E.
like such a good
E-
like small room.
Exactly.
It's like 500 people in there in the back.
You liking it now, Taylor?
Transcends the limitations of this physical reality.
Ooh-wee. Okay.
Bring those samples back, man.
So so now we're at 10 odd shows into your STS9 career, counting the ones that you said didn't really kind of embed themselves in you like these did.
Mhm.
Talk to me about this room. Talk to me about kind of what was the difference at this point after they had made that connection and you were kind of learning this catalog and exploring it for yourself. I mean, where does this show kind of fit into, your journey?
It's weird because I was like pretty knowledgeable about them even when I wasn't that into them. I was just a
Mhm.
nerd about jam bands in general, and so I just knew they were cool. And I had friends that were big fans, so it's like by like process of osmosis or something, I like knew like what the cool songs and what everyone wanted
Okay.
to hear was and stuff. I mean, I had my own idea of what that was based on, my friends and stuff. But it is interesting. I think like around this time is when I really started just like kind of, I don't know, kind of starting to really be like the songs I gravitated toward and what were like really sticking out to me. Um and it was always that like driving dance beat stuff. Like, I mean, it was always like I remember Totem like really sticking out to me at this time as like one of those that I was like, it's just a banger. Like it just goes hard, like so yeah, and that's like half of their music. So it's like so there's a lot to love if that was like what I liked about it. Um there's I would say there's a show and we don't have to necessarily like, go to a clip of it unless no, I think we had one maybe queued up for the St. Louis show because
Yeah,
Yeah,
we got
we
one.
got the
I
pageant
would
one. So
I would
talk about it
credit
first, and we get to the
yeah,
clip.
yeah. I would credit this show as being like the show that really it was like from the Wakarusa to that show, it was like I was open now. I was open to it and I was like allowing myself to be like this could be like my band or like who I'm really into or whatever. And then it was that show that I like walked away from being like we're in it. Like this is
Mhm.
it. This is who I am now. And I just remember after that, like just sending it to random shows with J Dub and like us just like having these long drives where he's just like schooling me on old songs and stuff that he needed. He's like, you need to know this, you need to know this. Like, and it was like these 8 hour long drives to Nashville and Dallas and these places where it was like just me and him just relentlessly being like, you need to know this, you need to listen to this. It's like this 51-minute like whatever evasive from like the barn burner and stuff like and just stuff like that it's like now it's like obviously, you know, all kind of like well-known stuff or to the hardcores and everything, but there was a lot that needed to be like addressed once you're like, I'm in this now.
Yeah.
And so yeah, but yeah, that St. Louis show, man, a couple things I'll say about it. A few things that stand out. One, Greg Ellis.
Yes.
So weird.
That's
so weird.
We're gonna see the
That
man
was
in
a
action.
Greg
here,
Ellis
yeah.
show because Saxton had like some emergency or was sick.
Yeah,
I
some
can't
family
remember.
stuff, I think.
Yeah, I can't remember what it was, but for some reason Greg Ellis took over, and I remember being like, "Holy shit! Like this is crazy!" Like I just remember that light show being wild at that.
Yeah, it was cool. It wasn't. You know, obviously there
Different,
was
like chaotic.
growing. Yeah, but
Yeah.
it was cool. I'll
It was
never
like
forget it.
now in retrospect and having seen so many Saxton shows during that like kind of time period, and then remembering back to that show, and that show stuck out to me so much, and it did something to me so much that it's probably like my most listened to show and most watched like Jamar video.
Yeah.
I think I've watched that Jamar video 100 times and like top to bottom. And yeah, it's just weird because it's like you're watching this like mad scientist that has all of Saxton's like toys and looks set up,
Mhm.
programmed, but
Yeah.
he's just like yard sailing it, just like chaos, just like wild. So yeah,
take a
that
look.
was an interesting thing about that show. Another fun little factoid, that breathe in from that show was phoned in by Brad Younghouse.
Mhm.
Because of a
Oh,
friend of ours
that
that
was
had
a-
passed away. And it was like a request on his behalf, and the band honored it. And it was a really good one. I remember that Breathe In being kind of like one of those turning points with me in the band, and just what it meant, and then like just how it makes you feel. Like that song just hits a different way. It's so like it's like hits the heart, where a lot of what they have like hits the brain, you know what I'm saying? Like it hits the
Mhm.
synapses. But that one just like yeah, that was my first time hearing Breathe In live, and it was a good one.
Yeah. Brad
so,
Brad
yeah.
has that one press on vinyl actually too. But
Wow.
yeah, without further ado, let's watch a little bit about what you're talking about here. And this is a pretty insane segment from that show.
laser shark ate this shit up, bro.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Jesus. Eesh.
God. Put that thing in a cage.
that
Man,
show hits, man.
I can see how that one sticks out for you, Taylor.
what one thing about those shows that I really remember noticing in the moment at the House of Blues a couple days later, he was really good at playing with silhouettes. I feel like that's something that Tiberius has picked up on in the last few years. It's something that he's kind of been leaning into a little bit more lately, and that just was something that was so natural to him. Like they look cool on stage, and he played a lot with those kind of dark shadows and
Mhm.
illuminating them from behind like that. I always thought that was such a dope opportunity to see
I've
somebody else play
always
with them.
considered that like an iconic look for them,
Yeah.
like silhouetted like that for sure.
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, the Greg stuff in that show is like in the middle of the call, like I think he did like 30 looks in like 10
Yeah.
seconds. Like it was just so wild. I feel like he was just trying them out in real time. Like he didn't even practice. He's just like, what's this one? And oh yeah,
Mm.
whoa, that one's pretty good. Like,
The big
Well,
white flash.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
It's so
that was
funny.
kind of what I was thinking in the moment. It was almost like if you had given me the controllers. Like
Yeah.
how does this make you feel in the moment? Like
Yeah.
all the
No, I
Um,
buttons.
mean, the show was so good. Like the playing was so just
Mhm.
fire that I had so many ideas after that show of wanting to do like a pin or something, and I ended up making a golden gato
yeah.
off of like after that show when they did the Golden Gate into gato, and one of the ideas was what you just showed that I never did. I always was like, there's a connect there. I wanted to do a tap in pin that was like a phone tap, like
Okay.
that had like
Oh.
somehow like the government was like tapping your call, like because the call was jammed. Yeah, I never, it's like the idea was there, never could make the idea come, I don't know, together.
um like to visually talk about like before you start making art for them, like yeah, I think we see a lot of like silhouettes in your art for them too, but like what Greg Ellis here, Saxon in the past has done, Tiberius now, how does that feed into like your aesthetic? Because there's a certain aesthetic with STS9. How does that kind of work into your artistic vision?
Um, it's a really interesting question, and definitely like it's funny because I just put this like on paper, actually, like the other day, like before we even talked about this. Um, yeah, it's just it's like I love recurring motifs. Like I'm a big fan of like Easter egging shit and like everything being like interconnected, and they're more of a reason for any like part of it than like it just looks cool. So we're like definitely that's always been something I did, but yeah, it goes back to like, artifact and the art of like the silhouettes of the people. I think it's just this idea of like the silhouette of a person is this recurring, yeah, just kind of motif throughout. But there's a lot of things I don't know, like that I've kind of worked into things I've done for them, like the the Rurik Pact like banner of peace symbol is
Hmm.
like something I just put it in almost every single thing I did for like 5 years. Some way, some form, it's like in there. Sometimes it's pretty overt, sometimes it's like more tucked or like hidden in the art. But yeah, the three circles, it's just like a lot of people may not know what that is or what it is, like what it stands for, but yeah.
For those that can't see my screen right
Yeah,
now, right here. Boom.
so it's like this symbol where the three dots, they represent like culture, which is made up of art, science, and spirituality, essentially. And
Yeah.
the red color is like symbolizes like the blood that unifies all people, because everyone's blood is the same. And it's like just yeah, it's a interesting shape, and I always was like really taken with it, and it felt like important to their, I don't know, what they're all about and everything. So definitely have like, I don't know, tried to always backdoor that one in there. And I've got that in a lot of different things. It's part of the like human dream art a little bit. Um, but yeah, so it's like I just I don't know. There's a lot of stuff throughout that yeah, it's just like they have a vibe, and I've always kind of just felt like I don't know, that maybe that's like one of my uh like a strong suit is just like being able to bring those things together and kind of like chameleon into something a little bit. And it's like I've always just felt really natural doing like their things, like their aesthetic. And yeah, it just feels like I don't know, sometimes I'm working on stuff like you work for a lot of clients and a lot of stuff where it's like you're really translating someone else's vision. It's not as like creative like of a personal expression, you know what I'm saying? And with them, it's always like it's the line is blurred because it's like we're so aligned. So it's just yeah, it's really like special. It just feels like there's times when I'm working on things for them and I'm just feel like I'm cooking, you know, I'm like, damn.
Mhm.
It's like whereas sometimes you're asking on or you're working on something that's like an ask from a client that's like, you know, you're just not like feeling it, but it's like a job and you got to do it. So it's just interesting. I don't know. Art, man, and job, creative work.
So so on that note, your role over the past few years has become much more hands-on with STS9, and
Mhm.
I don't think you have to know a whole lot about art to kind of see your touch in probably most of the last things that they've rolled out in the last 18
Mhm.
months in terms of
Mhm.
announcements and show posters. You've spent a lot of collabs with you and other artists. Just walk us through going from being a fan to being a collaborator, and
Yeah,
what that process
it's
looks like.
it's really crazy because like never really imagined it would be like that. But yeah, I mean, I think the first thing I ever made was a pen. I want to say, yeah, a pen. And I think it was like a Mayan STS9. It like said STS9 is like the four dots, like the nine.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's like the first like little item that I like had produced or whatever. And then yeah, that just kind of like ballooned because I sold those and then I was like, I want to do more. And
And was this official at this point, or is this just
no, this was
fan
just
art?
fan art. Yeah. And dude, I mean, I did fan art for probably like, I don't know, 4 or 5 years before I
Yeah.
ever got to work on something, which I would say like my bridge to the band was Conscious Alliance.
Right. And I actually had that thought as you were
Yeah.
talking about it. Like,
Shout
where?
out BJ Cochran and Conscious Alliance. Those are the homies. Like
Yeah.
straight up, like I mean, it's just it's they they it was interesting because for a long time STS9 wasn't making their own posters and stuff. They just Conscious Alliance, they would just let them handle it.
Yeah.
And it was always like kind of a cool thing. It's like that, you know, it's just funny because like, you know, there's just a way bands like do things and STS9's just always carve their own path. Like, I don't know. It's like show posters are such an official thing for like, you know, all the other big bands. It's like official like merch posters and all that stuff. And I just like, I love that for what, like 20, 15, almost 20 years, they were just kind of like, it's for charity. Like, we'll just let them run it and just let it be a charity thing. It's just fucking cool, you know? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
um, but but at a certain point, it's just like, merch really is important to everything in the way it creates cash flow for them and opens up doors for, you know, it's just it is important. Like it's just weird with them because like there's like an ethos I feel like here that we have to like consider where it's like we want to be careful and intentional about what we're making. Like we don't want to just like I don't know, be making stuff just to make stuff. So, but it's a balance because we're trying to like create like revenue and comfort for the band while also having like so much fun making like really cool intentional stuff. So
Yeah.
we have
And
some.
I feel like you being a fan too, like when you were making in this first print, I'll show it from Conscious Alliance, like this isn't something that Conscious Alliance, it's not like that your typical Conscious Alliance look, right? This is kind of that first look, and like I feel like you having pride in it and that ethos and having an understanding of it
Mhm.
helps like kind of make this unique and make it look like something that's like really specific to like their artistic vision and stuff like that. So do you feel like that plays a big role too, and just your kind of personal pride in it and how it should look initially?
Sure, man. Yeah. I mean, honestly, I feel like I'm just like I don't want to say I'm a copycat, but like I had heroes who I was really inspired by who I think are like pretty obvious, and it's like
Mhm.
it's just really just been this crazy amalgamation of like different things I like and bringing them together and kind of my own spin on those things. And yeah, I feel like I look back at the earlier stuff and I feel like it was me trying to more like chameleon to what should be their exact vibe. And it's
Yeah.
just in a cool place now because I feel like we've done so much things that it's like you don't want to get repetitive or like too repetitive. Like it's this balance between it getting tired and I think we're like in just a cool place where we're trying to come up with just imaginative stuff now. Like, I don't know, just kind of dreaming bigger and thinking about, I don't know, like I think
I mean,
the last year of posters, I would say, and merch would be like a good direction of where it's like I imagine it going, where it's like we look at these things as like an opportunity to put out a cool piece of art. Um, rather than just a keepsake. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean that felt like that really started, and correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, I'm sure the intention was there before, but it felt like it really started at the Paramount last year.
Mhm.
Where I mean, you really did something with bringing so many artists together for a single poster, and then bringing me in the fold as well to make the prints, connected to that, where it really did feel like a reset for the community to where you kind
Mhm.
of brought everyone together and said, "Hey, this is what we can do as a
Mhm.
community with kind of with an
Yeah.
intention in mind." And not to compliment you too much throughout this whole thing, man, but I mean, I really credit you with kind of this initial renaissance of art that's happened over the last 18 months. I mean, this to me
Mhm.
feels like the start of it. It felt like something had changed and shifted that night.
Yeah, they like specifically asked me to do something because they told me it was like pretty known about the Sector 9 thing, but they came to me about doing some stuff for it and it was like they had this idea they wanted it to be this like community involved kind of thing and I was like I have the idea like I'll start reaching out. It's just kind of hard to like involve that many people. It's like you want to make sure everyone's kind of like taken care of and it's like not just like donate to this. It's we tried to like kind of hook everyone up and yeah, but it was like it was just cool. Like, I mean, even me just like in that, it was just so fun to like get my hands on everyone else's stuff
Hmm.
and like bring it
Sure.
into my Illustrator or whatever, Photoshop and stuff, and like mess with it to get it like right how I like to mess with things, and then like remixing it all. It's just like, yeah, that's been something I've done a few other times since then, and yeah, that's a fun type of thing for me. I love to collaborate. I mean, collaboration is like, it can be like kind of weird and almost like sensitive and touchy sometimes. It's like when you collaborate with someone, it's like this is a really personal thing.
Hmm.
So it's like you're taking like visual risks and then at times you can feel almost like judged if something's not liked or whatever. It's just it's weird, but it's ultimately rewarding when you like when it works out and you're like really both contribute in a cool way and it's like something beyond what either would do or something. I don't know. So
Yeah. I mean, it's
fun.
intimidating, right? It's kind of that learning experience while also being scared where to put your next foot. I mean,
Yeah. Mhm.
it's if you can stick the landing to that,
Mhm.
it's so much fun. It's one of my favorite things to do. Um, eh, Talk to us about Camp Elsewhere a little bit. Just putting
Yeah.
that together. I know you had a
So
gigantic
magical.
role in that.
Yeah.
Just what that process was like of working with the band to put together, honestly, an event like I've never heard of before.
Yeah, man. I mean, what's funny about it, I don't think I'm like revealing too much saying this, but we like, I would say too, even it's like it was just special. I mean, Nate, you can attest to it that there was just a vibe about it that was like such like at ease. Like the whole thing was just like, wow, this is just like too perfect. Like, it was weird.
Kept waiting for something to go wrong,
I
maybe.
know, I know.
Like,
I was like, and just didn't, but like, yeah, it's so even with it being like that magical feeling and everything, it's funny because I can tell you that what the end product and what everyone experienced was like probably like probably like 30% of what we were like dreaming and wanting it to be. So it was like, you know, you dream big and then the budget like cuts it and you gotta like get it to something that makes sense financially. It's like, and also like is unique and it's like this game of like there's only so much funding and budget to mess with. So it's like, we had all these ideas of like installations and stuff that we ended up really just like going out there and like bootstrapping it, me and uh Nathan. So yeah, we just I don't know. It was really fun. We definitely poured a lot of like love into it. Yeah, it just felt crazy. And it was just it's like I had never been to the Catskills. It's like
so beautiful, man. It's I
crazy.
hadn't either.
It felt like the Shire. Like it was
Yeah.
literally like I was like the grass like in the more wooded areas, the grass it was just like moss on dirt and it was like
Yeah.
fluffy. It was like a pillow. I was like, what is this? Like a fairy tale land. Do you remember? Did you see the rock that had
Yes, I was
crazy
walking with you
plants
and
on it?
you, yeah,
Oh my
you and
God.
Zach,
Yeah.
and he was obsessed with this
I
rock.
know
He's
I
like, "You
had to
gotta
show
come
him.
see that." Yeah.
I was like, dude, you got to see this fucking rock. It is like a fairy's home, like in the woods. It was so crazy. We have photos of it. I should have that to queue up here.
Yeah.
We'll make it the cover of the podcast.
But like, I mean,
Yep. I'll
obviously
get you the photo.
you were such a big part of that. So like, and they brought you into their creative and artistic process. And I know we were talking a few weeks ago about one of the things you wanted to discuss is just getting a look at their artistic process. So like, from your artist perspective, speak to that a little bit. What are some things that stand out about them as artists?
I mean, they just um completely authentic to themselves. Like
Hmm.
I think that they trust in each other and that like there's just a yeah, that there's a level of like just family to and the decision making and stuff that's just yeah. It's really cool, man. It's really cool to like be chatting them like daily and talking and it's like every time I have to just talk to you about some thing we got to handle basically we it's also just like a special conversation like
Hmm.
every single time. So yeah, they're the best. I don't know. They're so cool.
You talked
Um,
about Hunter Brown's artistic mind and it
mm,
specifically, like what is it about him that is like so unique?
Hunter's just a really cool guy, man. Like he's a nerd. Like he's just really into so many things and like I just feel like almost more than like a rock star or something. I feel like he's like a professor to me or something. Like I literally like every time we talk, I come away with
Mm,
some new thing I'm gonna go look up on like archive.org,
yep.
find some like 17th century like treatise on architecture by Vitruvius that I need to read the like 18th edition English translation. Like,
He's
I'm
got you
like,
in the
oh,
restricted section. Yeah.
yeah. No, and it's just cool, dude. Like, I mean, it's so cool to hear his like, you know, weird where his mind goes and what's inspiring to him. Because yeah, it's equally to me, it's like everything that they're into is just it's like I said, authentic to themselves. It's like, and also just what interests them. Like, yeah, it's weird, man. I mean, they're like, it just kind of comes all back to this, like they're kind of in this box as like a jam band or something. And I don't know, like I just view them as like just their own thing, you know? Like,
Yeah.
and so it's interesting because it's just that's the approach on the other side is like, um, they're not thinking that much about what is like the expectation or something. I feel like, I don't know. It's hard. I don't want to like speak for them, but like that's what it seems like. It seems like they're just like legitimately like want to create from an extremely personal place and it comes through. I mean, what we're hearing is like fucking tight. Like I'm really excited for what's coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It's great, dude. I feel like I was just telling Hunter, like I remind myself constantly because it is a lot of work, like doing all this stuff like all the time, and yeah, it's just it can be a lot, but I at times I like just have to remind myself that it's like a privilege to do this kind of work in general, like and let alone with something I'm just like it's like a dream job for me to get to be paid to do this collab with this collaboration with them. And yeah, it's like there's definitely a mutual like respect and just trust where it's like, yeah, I think it's mutually beneficial because it's like it kind of takes some things out of their hands that they feel like they can trust me handling. And yeah, I don't know, it's good. Same way, like both ways. So yeah, I don't know. What was
That's
the question
really
again?
good. Deep dive
Oh.
into it. I think you answered it. Hunter Brown is like a professor for sure. But
Yeah, yeah.
Scotty, what do you got?
Let's see here. Roll with STS9. Man, we cranked through a bunch of stuff. We can
Should we
do
go back
S.
to that first show, that clip? The not the
Yes.
first show, so your first print you got to do with them specifically, shared a picture of it too. You didn't actually get to go to the show,
Mhm.
but explain that feeling where you get the call to do that, right?
Yeah.
And then we'll share a clip of it as well. But yeah, talk about that
Well,
first.
fun fact about that poster, that was designed to be the poster for Wavespell 2018.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
So a few
And
months later, right? Yeah.
so basically what happened, that's why I sent both of those posters because it was interesting. This was a Conscious Alliance thing. They were like, "Hey, SCS9 wants or needs a poster for their Wave Spell Festival." And I was like, yeah, like definitely."
Yeah.
And so I was like so stoked. This was like the first thing I was going to put the logo on. And I designed the Asheville thing. And that was my
Mhm.
pitch for it. And I even got to show it, he circled back and was like, "Hey, actually, they already got Mars One for Wave Spell. So whatever you were working on, can we use it for this Asheville show?" And I was like, so I had to just change the stuff. So I have a version of this that says Wave Spell and has the dates for Wave Spell, which is kind of
Okay.
cool.
That's a
Yeah.
good collector's item for sure.
But I mean, I didn't print them, but I have I have it designed. I have the
Yeah.
file.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, anyway, then Mars One actually fell through for the poster for Wave Spell. They did use his stuff for the like promotional stuff, but he fell through with Conscious Lion somehow, and he was like, "Hey, actually, can you now also do something for Wave Spell?" And I was like, "Oh," and I did the Wave Spell poster that you see, and I'm like, it was actually perfect that it happened that way because during that time, I had this realization that the wave spell stuff should have this like banner of peace and
Hmm.
harken back to some of the like 1320 stuff, just because it's like wave spell is like their thing, you know, it's like they're curated. It
Oh
was
yeah.
kind of this ultra curated thing. It's like Camp Elsewhere, you know, it's just like those things are next level. Like,
Yeah.
and so yeah, I was just so stoked to get to do this and loved this poster. I mean, yeah, I kind of like look at old stuff I did like a while back and I cringe a little bit at things. So I'm like my own biggest critic, but
I think
this
most
one
artists
ages
are like
well.
that.
I really like this one. I
Yeah.
think the Wave
The
Spell one does too, but it's like that's just my own like personal. I'm like, I could have done something cooler than that.
Well, it gets to visually like just encapsulate a sonic moment like
Hmm.
this, and
Hmm.
for it to come out sounding something like this, and I wanted to share this clip, and I felt like it just like the sound goes with the visuals pretty well here. So. and then they just hit you with the rent. So like your art is immortalized like that. And when I look at your art, man, I feel like I can hear your visual art, and that's the kind of shit I hear when I look at your prints and your art and everything like that. So that's what that means to me. I've got that poster framed at my place. You actually gifted me your poster you made for the following year for my 100th show. So just holds your art holds a special place in my sonic and visual memory with the band, man. And that's just an example of it.
Thank you. Yeah, man. Like it's always like special to put it on music, you know? Like
Yeah.
it always like for it to be like connected to a certain show or whatever. I love it's so special. Like some of my favorite ones ever are those Wavespell 2019 covers that are like the Be Pearl and Me like
Oh
so.
yeah, the improv ones. Yeah.
Yeah, I love those covers. I'm like, oh, I'm so glad we did those. Like those are such good improv. And like the covers are so that's just like legendary shit, you know? Like
Yeah.
it's like it and it's just fucking sick to be able to like, yeah, like I don't know. That was always something like early on that I was like, oh, no one's gonna do this unless I just like email the team, the social media team who like puts the covers on Bandcamp or whatever. And I was like, I'm gonna start like doing these every time I do art and just like send the art to them so they use that. But yeah, I loved those because
Oh.
on each of these, I from the previous year, I had photos that I used for year two. I was able to use like things that are from there, like in the art. And I was like, yeah, on that last one,
This one. Yeah.
well, the other one, there's like a third one. Yeah, that one, the fire truck and the deer are from outside.
Yeah, like
Um,
out back from the like the lodge, right?
yeah, I just like loved getting to put those touches in it because I got a bunch of good phone pictures the first year. Yeah, so I don't know. I just love that. It's always special to get to do like album art and live shows are really cool. I mean, getting to put your stuff to like getting to kind of collab and do things on like official releases and stuff. Like I got to do Chromolite, the art and everything, and that like coming out, it's just like that's gonna like outlive me, you know. I just love that. Like it's cool. Like I mean, I don't know. Who knows if the whole, I feel like the country is just going to burn down in a couple years. So we'll see. It may not outlive me. We'll see.
Yeah, they're
Um,
gonna someone will burn it like the like the Romans did with the like the Crusades or
Yeah.
whatever. Yeah.
totally. They're gonna destroy the servers. They're gonna EMP us, bro.
So got a got
Go ahead, Scotty.
got a couple of just kind of stuff that we hit with every guest that comes through here. Real standard nerdy STS9 stuff. Favorite STS9 song?
Oh shit.
This one always gets me.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think with the caveat of just like it changes all the time, but what I would say my favorite. But I would say this is weird, probably a weird one, but Re-Stereo.
Okay.
Great.
So
And
it's not
it's
not
like there's
RE
not a lot of
stereo.
yeah, there's not a lot of examples, but there's a few.
Yeah.
Sure.
I would say Re-Stereo is like my favorite song that I will, probably bug them to bust it out someday. But
Been a while.
Great answer.
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't
Favorite
know.
venue-
I feel like
favorite
it's
venue?
not
Oh,
the
go ahead.
hardest one to, I don't know. Like it's pretty just like straightforward.
When was the
Um,
last time on that one? Was that the Fillmore in 2018,
uh,
17?
I'll pull that up.
It was a New Year's run, wasn't it?
um, I mean, I could name a few others, like Unquestionable Supremacy is one of my favorite songs for sure. I've seen there's like versions of that stand out so much, like live ones I've caught. Yeah, I don't
It's
I
been
don't know. It's
11
hard
years,
to-
9 months, and 15 days.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
I was thinking it was
Never been
like
played by
back
Alana?
back
No,
around
not
2011.
2013. Yeah, but you probably
2013.
heard it back in 2011. Yeah.
Oh, I've never gotten it. I've never heard
Oh,
it.
you haven't, yeah, but they actually,
But
yeah,
I've
20.
listened to some of those. There was a couple that were like the regular full band version. There was the one that was axed.
Hmm.
In
Something
Chicago,
like
right?
that. Yeah.
Yeah, they did play it in Chicago.
I'm
Was
like,
that?
it could come back
Mhm.
someday. It's kind of like when they've recently started doing like Empires again
Yep.
and Soma. It's like I've been waiting for that and it just happened. So I don't know. Who knows? Never know what they're gonna do.
Favorite venue to see the band in?
My favorite venue to see them at. Full Moon Resort.
Okay.
Like,
Yes.
I don't know, probably Full Moon Resort.
Yeah.
Just the vibe in that the low amount of people and the vibe was just next level, basically.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Favorite show you've seen to date?
Favorite show I've seen.
Hmm. Favorite STS9
Um,
show?
that's a tough one. What did I say? Didn't I email y'all? I think I said one.
You sent us a couple options. You
Okay.
sent
You talked about that Asheville show, and
Yeah.
yeah,
That one really was pretty like
and that was 2016 fall
yeah.
tour, yeah, winter tour.
That was the
Yeah.
year I saw the most shows, I think. Maybe after that a couple years, but
It is. You saw 19 shows that year.
Yep. Hmm.
yeah,
Mm.
I was going hard.
Did some work for sure.
Yeah, 2016 was just a lot of those shows happened that year that were just huge for me. And yeah, that Telluride show, I think that was another one I pointed out in my that one. The vibes were so hot. And they were high in there. We were like, we were had our shoes off. It was like carpet in the venue. Had like socks on and we were running around like it was awesome. Just small little show at the base of a ski like resort. So it was crazy. I loved like you rode the gondola up to like to the show and then home. You rode it back down. It was sick.
Yeah, it's like instead of taking an Uber home, you take the
Yeah,
gondola home.
get
Yeah.
on the gondola. And our place was like a couple blocks from where the gondola let out. So it was just like that was like the run where I first hung out with Caesar in person. I
Mm.
like kind of knew of
I
him,
met him
but
the
I
next
hadn't really
night.
ever we like kicked it because they were all and Gina
Hmm.
was they were all in the same hotel, like we were all in the same hotel. And yeah, it was like my first time meeting a lot of those people who are, our dear friends and loved ones now.
Yep.
Um, yeah, I think like that mountain tour run really just as a whole run, that one stands out as just like a magical time for me and in my fandom. Just was like the Wild West, and it was, I don't know, it was a great run. Every single stop was just gems and gems. It was sick. It was crazy. And then we got the Mobius
Yeah.
at Axel.
Yeah.
Like so sick. Like, oh man.
It would be hard for me to pick a more important run than that.
Was it
You're far from the only person that I've heard say that. I mean, that's where me and Nate's friendship started. That's where I met Caesar and
Mhm.
Chase Taylor and Matt
Mhm.
Voss. And
Yeah.
first time I really spent time with Hunter Booth. I mean, there's a lot of really heavy hitters that
Yeah.
are,
Yeah.
are like people that would probably be in my wedding today.
Yeah, some shit came together during
Yeah.
that tour for sure.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want them to do it again. More like mountain stuff. I'm
Sure.
like,
Yep.
I don't know. Yeah.
Um, Dream STS9 cover. I think you gave us a
Dream
pretty good
cover.
list a few months ago for our
Gave
when
you a
we were
good
talking about covers.
list. I have a song. I don't know if it was on my list, but um You Know by Mahavishnu Orchestra.
Okay.
Ooh.
Okay.
I feel like it's just there's not much to it, but there would be like a beautiful like space for them to just get weird and do some like improv. It's a jazz song, so
Mhm.
just get real weird with the jam. But it's got this like recurring kind of lick that feels like such a them kind of lick.
Hmm.
Reminds me of Piece One by
Yeah.
John McLaughlin.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that that's
Okay.
the one. Yeah, I would say.
Beautiful. And you honestly, you might have already crossed him off your list. But dream collaborator, on a print.
On a print
I
dream.
know I know at some point it was Chris D, and congrats on that. You knocked that one off your list for New
Yeah, it's
Year's.
really cool. He's just a sweetie. Like so nice, so nice to work with, dude. Like, um, yeah. Gosh. I mean, at this point, I don't know. It's hard to say. It really is hard to say. I think at this point it's less about like dream collabs and more just like um I think it's like interesting and a thing I've always wanted to use my kind of role and position to kind of shed light on other people like that I think that deserve it. You know what I'm saying? And so yeah, it's almost like honestly, it can get sticky when you try and work with like just really iconic and like successful artists because they charge a lot of money and it just gets tough to like make it worth it for certain level of artists. Yeah, everything's on a budget, you know. It's like gotta keep the lights on. It's gotta like make sense to do it, you know. Or else you can just kind of get behind real quick with merch if you're not making like smart choices and stuff. So we just yeah, it's just like I love yeah, there's just I just want to keep doing stuff with our friends and everything, you know. I think
Love
that's
that.
a cool thing to do. Um, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe like a gosh, I can't even yeah. I would
I didn't
like
mean to put you on the spot.
no,
I just
honestly,
said if you
like
might
there
came to mind.
probably are some that I'm not really thinking of, but yeah, I mean, at this point it would be like I don't even know, like Agnes Dennis or something. Like
Okay.
it's just like do like an environmental art piece or something with like a
Okay.
land artist or something like that.
Cool.
That's like a dream that me and Nathan have shared and kind of talked about some kind of installation that's like part of an event we do or something that would be like planted ahead of time and then groomed and like grown and into a natural like art piece. Anyway, something like that that's like inspired by Agnes Dennis or something like that. That's kind of like my dream project is to do some stuff like that. Just like real art that'll like live on and like um inspire someone, you know? Something that'll like there's this thing that Agnes Dennis did. She made this thing called Tree Mountain where she planted it 11,000 trees with 11,000 people. Everyone planted one tree in a very specific coordinated spot. And it grew into this like sacred geometry forest, the way she grew the trees up. And yeah, and it took like 70 years for it to get to like where it looks all the trees are mature and it like looks right and everything. So it like, you know, it's just like it's called like a gift for like future generations. And it's like stuff like that just really inspiring to me. Like I'm like, I want to do something like that where we like get a grant and like build something or I don't know. So that's like my dream kind of stuff, but it's
It's a
like
great
it's
answer.
hard to bring together, man.
Mm-hmm.
It was hard to bring together like before the current like admin, but there I feel like the last thing we can do right now is get like grants for like heady art
Sure.
installations.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's like that kind of stuff that I don't know, dream of. I think something
Yeah.
like that'll come together someday. But
That's a way ahead of your answer than I think we could have hoped for, and that's
Yeah.
awesome to hear. That I never even thought of that as a thing, and that is really really cool. Um, so we've talked nature, we've talked music. Let's talk some fratty stuff, man. Let's talk about sports, right?
oh
Uh,
god.
people might know you talked about it. A lot of your initial drawings about the Cowboys, right?
Mhm, mhm,
You're a big Cowboys fan.
mhm,
Some might apologize to you for that, but I know you're a proud Cowboys fan. If you
mhm.
could maybe pick, if you could maybe pick like your top five players of all time, and then personify each of those players into like an STS9 song, which ones would you pick for him?
I'm so glad you asked, first of all. Because I actually had a list prepared. I had to think about it because it's actually kind of hard to like, um, you know, think about it in real time. Like, who are even my favorite players? It's like
Yeah.
honestly, I was like definitely not picking anyone currently, really, because I'm just
You're
like
so
in a dark
mad.
place. So I'm just like, so really, I'm thinking back to like I wanted to have some like kind of sleepers. So anyway, number five, coming in number five, we got Bob Lilly, who I would
Okay.
say he was a defensive tackle and basically the cornerstone of the Doomsday defense. So he's gonna be Doom.
Nice.
We've got Ed Jones, also part of that Doomsday defense. Ed Too Tall Jones, they call him. So we got
Ah.
986 for him.
Love that. Yes.
I had Drew Pearson on here, Mr. Clutch, aka 88. I got sits on my desk, my like signed little
Oh,
Drew
nice.
Pearson mini. Couldn't really think of a clever song for him, so I just did the last 50,000 years because that's how long it's been since we've won a championship. Des Bryant. I just the whole album Here Catch.
Okay, love
Okay.
that. He's
That's
gonna
the-
catch it. Yeah.
That's the headiest answer I've ever heard.
And then just Emmett Smith, Evasive Maneuvers. That one's kind of
Oh
boring.
yeah.
And then I had a sixth one because I couldn't decide who to cut, so I'm just gonna say Micah Parsons Lion.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Whatever. That one's boring. I think like the last 50,000 years is my favorite one.
Yeah,
For
that's
sure.
gotta be going. I like Here Catch, and I prepared one too, and I am gonna go with a newer player that I really admire. I mean,
Yeah.
you can't hate CeeDee Lamb, man,
Yeah,
and
man, of course.
he's just smooth and he's new and he's fresh. I'm gonna go with CeeDee Lamb as Glass Z13 for me.
Okay.
Okay.
Nice. Love
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
I went with old Dak. I went with
Oh my
Dak
God.
Prescott, and I went with March because like
Okay.
it's good, you
Yeah.
know. It's fine. You don't normally walk away talking about it after a show, but every once in a while you'll get like
Mountain
an
Tour.
Aspen.
Aspen.
No, I was
Yeah.
about to say you'll get an Aspen. You'll get like his game in week 5 where he threw for 352 yards, but like
Oh, hey,
doesn't
Dak
normally
Prescott
happen like
retired Tom Brady.
that. Okay.
Remember that.
Okay. Yeah.
Remember that.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, so Dak is my March. We'll go
Okay.
with that. And I actually had Michael Parsons as a backup, but I had him as Menacer.
I was thinking Dusk for him. He scares the hell out of me, man.
Yeah, something scary.
Yeah.
Pretty good. It's pretty good.
Taylor, thank you again, man. Thank you so much. I think that's most of the questions that we have for you. We're gonna do a given hot take, and we're gonna do a couple of fan submissions that we'd love for you to stick around with. But just thank you so much for being so generous with your time. I know we had some technical issues, but this was a lot of fun, man. Thank you so much again for
No problem, guys.
contributing to this. We really appreciate it.
I'm on board for a given hot take, and I had this one especially prepared since we got Taylor with us too. And we started the episode with that Vibe Becomes You. Taylor, this was the first piece of your art that I saw that I just thought was really cool. The Vans kind of lot art with the Vibe Becomes You. So I wanted to start with that. And man, I just miss
love
pin
that
culture.
pin.
Yeah, I miss pin culture, man. And
Yeah, I know, dude.
I'm gonna make a bold statement. I think in the next 5 years, all those pins in your drawer, all those pins that you might have in a corkboard somewhere, that value is gonna come back on that, right? So collect your pins, the ones that you've got like this. This is the NASA one with
I got it,
the
man.
remade one, still in the bag. Yeah, this is 242 out of 300.
Damn,
Oh,
no one
there's
told me we
my-
were bringing pin collections. I've got so many downstairs.
Thick little collection here that is like most of these are my number ones of like stuff I did, and then just like all my other favorite little things. I have a
Yeah.
few that I just wear on hats that are like the best ones I have. But
Yeah. But my prediction is just like Pokemon cards came back. Pins
yeah,
pins are coming. They're gonna make a comeback at some point. So don't offload those. If
I
you
don't
got
think I can sell my ones of my own ones that I kept the number ones of. I'm like, I can't. I guess I'm
Yeah.
just
No,
gonna
that's its own.
they're
That's
gonna
its own
inherit
piece.
those. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
So that's my hot take of the week. Look out for
like
it.
it.
To
Pins
come
making a
back.
comeback.
That's not a
Yeah.
hot take. That's a normal take. Yeah.
I
Pins
guess
were
it's,
cool.
it's my lukewarm take, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
yeah.
figured you'd be on my side with that,
No,
Taylor.
extremely based take of the week. Let's change it to that.
Love it.
All right,
Mhm.
so last week, guys, we did a prompt where we asked people to give us your top 5 people you'd like to take to an STS9 show. We had obviously the answers are always great for these. They're so much fun. They're kind of my favorite part of the preparation for the next week. The one that really got me, man, was Gina Wen. She actually heard the episode and answered it before we even put the prompt up. And she said, let's see. As for who I would take to my first show, I would have to say my number one would have to be my oldest son. As most of you know, he got us into STS9 and passed in 2013. It would be amazing to attend a show with him as I have my other son, to learn his favorite songs and to nerd out with their music. Number 2 would be my father, as he was my musical influence. Number 3 would be Shaquille O'Neal, since he's all about the drums and bass. Number 4 would be my coworkers, since they gave me so much crap about it over the years. And number 5 would be Weird Al Yankovic, because I feel like his accordion needs to be incorporated.
Whoa,
I love
okay.
that.
Pump the
No,
brakes. Pump the brakes.
yeah, it could work into an accent, maybe.
Honestly, yeah, I could see
Yeah.
it. I could see it. Weird Al. We would go.
My favorite answer, and a lot of you guys tugged at the heartstrings here. It made me feel
Yeah.
bad for going comedic with my answers.
You went
Like-
Borat. They're like
Borat, yeah.
my
Borat.
brother that died in a car accident.
I was like, oh, what we were. I really like Brooke Montjoy's list here. She did start with her parents, right? Both my parents have been to a show, so I can do that. A lawn show where they can chill on a blanket, that'd be great. Betty White, this would be fun. And Betty White at any age, honestly, would get
Hell
down
yeah.
for several reasons. She'd be the rave grandma on the rail with me. Hell yeah, Brooke, she would. Number 3 was Paul Rudd. Man, how can you not like Paul Rudd? She said, handsome, funny, and will have the best dad moves to show off. I think of that scene of him and Jason Segel from I Love You Man seeing Rush,
Uh-huh.
where he gets on Jason Segel's shoulders. He's playing air bass and stuff. We might have to dub that to an STS9 song. That'd be a good one. Number 2, this was a good one. I don't know how either of us didn't think about it. Seth Rogen. He's going to have enough joints to share with the entire show. And love to hear that laugh at set break. That would calm me down a little bit too. And then Andy Cohen. I didn't like this at first. He gets on my nerves a little bit. He's a big deadhead.
Yeah, the video of him dancing with the like patchworks on.
Yeah.
Pretty
But
funny.
I saw him at the they did a big event at the Kennedy Center where he was interviewing John Mayer, and he asked him some pretty funny questions. And one of the questions was, "What's the horniest Grateful Dead song?" And he said, "There's not too many horny Grateful Dead songs unless you're into gambling, committing crimes, and doing all that kind of stuff." So if you're horny for that, I'm gonna think Today is the horniest STS9 song. That song is striptease material for me, but that was my favorite list that we saw.
I've got one more. This one I'm gonna butcher your name, girl. I'm so sorry. Akanksha and Corey. She said this is a stupid answer. It's not a stupid answer. It's my favorite one. STS9 is her answer.
Yeah, I was thinking that.
Yeah, I wish I could see STS9 with the band so they could see themselves experience the bliss. I remember one time telling Benny Bruce of Papadosia that I felt bad for them that they never could experience themselves live, and he said, "You know, I actually think about that a lot. I wonder if they think about that a lot, because it is kind of a wild thought to put yourself in front of you as you're emitting all those vibes." That was a very heady thought.
Yeah, it's almost like, do you know how good you are?
Exactly.
But yeah, any ideas from you, Taylor, on who do you want to bring to their first show?
Like, I think it would be cool to see like Hunter Thompson,
Yes.
like just
Great
experience it, like, and like old, like jaded, burnt to a crisp Hunter Thompson, like Sheriff Thompson.
answer.
Uh, yeah, I don't know.
That'd be a good one for sure.
Yeah.
Well, that is it. And for next week, we got the Super Bowl coming up this weekend, the big game, right? Anytime a Super Bowl comes and you think about the halftime show, we got Kendrick this year. That's going to be epic. Can't wait to see it. Johnny Bracken every year he puts together the set list as if we're putting it together in lounge. It's always got me thinking if STS9 was headlining the Super Bowl halftime show, what would they play? So put together a list for us. Throw it in the comments here. We'll throw it in the lounge. We'll share our STS9 halftime show after we get to see Kendrick throw it down this weekend next week, and we'll share some of our favorites too. But that's all we got. Taylor, again, man, thanks for all you do. So excited to see what's coming from you, what's coming from the band with the Human Dream, the new album, and all the other stuff that you've been working on, man. Appreciate the time, and yeah, we'll see you down the line here.
Thank you guys.
Peace, guys.